I think we should talk about more about focus, that point of care ultrasound, because it is not only the lungs which are going to be, as we will talking, and you many people who are joined with us, they must have the experience that many systems in these newborns, they got involved because of COVID. And now, since last few weeks, we are getting more of neonatal MIS. So even though MIS is not active COVID, but the things, the way they present is very awkward and different. How we can use ultrasound in that? That includes your brain, head, heart, lungs, kidneys, okay, and Dopplers of the vessels. So we will discuss. I won't go in detail of everything, but I will try to touch upon various aspects of each part, that how we do the ultrasound for that, and how it is useful pertaining to newborns who get infected with COVID or present to us with uh, multi-system inflammatory syndrome (MIS). I hope everybody is able to see my screen and you can hear me. This is a normal format, I think so. We need to ask now on these online academic sessions. So okay, so this is focus. This is being a slide which is prepared by Professor Martin Klukov and Dr. Suryavanshi. So when we put our probe to see the heart, when we do the cardiac ultrasound, what we intend to see, one, what is the structure, and particularly in these scenarios in corona and MIS, we need to rule out that pericardial effusion is there or not. The cardiac functioning we need to concentrate on. Okay. And then systemic and pulmonary pressures we need to concentrate on. Why? We will discuss. Cranial ultrasound is very important because I don't know if you have come across, but this is our experience and with those with whom I have talked to, that these babies with MIS or corona, they are coming with unexplained seizures, encephalopathy maybe. So it is very important to rule out, IVH, intracerebral hemorrhage, or if there is any intracranial pressures are raised. So Dopplers, cranial Dopplers are very useful in telling us. Then lung ultrasound, as this the core topic is. Okay. So as we will talk about this is not different from what you do for the normal babies or babies with other diseases. But particularly what we have seen in baby with corona, they present with PPHN and pneumonia, but the babies who are now coming with MIS, they have few of the babies received with unexplained pneumothorax. So that is something we need to pick up, and then how we monitor that, that is very important. Abdominal ultrasounds, there are case reports, and people commonly have seen these infants with MIS or with COVID. They present with feed intolerance, or the premature babies, they are coming to us with NEC, neck. And then the line positioning also. More of a line positioning we will talk about today, the Dopplers of the vessels. Why? I will tell you and show you why it is being important. So mostly we will be concentrating mainly on the lung ultrasounds, functional echoes, and the Dopplers of the vessels, because these are the three main areas which are much more related to our day-to-day decision making and management of this COVID and MIS newborns. So what is, when I define what is the functional echo, my friends, functional echo or the point of care ultrasound is nothing, is just where and how to put the probe at the appropriate place at the appropriate time. That is what is the functional echo is. So when these newborns with COVID or MIS, they present with you, what are the most common presentations with which they present with to us when this corona opens up into the body? One is pneumonia. Everybody must be agreeing, or they must have seen that these newborns, they commonly they present with pneumonia. Like we get a very varied and strange kind of pneumonias also, with bulle formation and all that. Then, as I discussed, especially in MIS, neonatal MIS, we have been receiving babies with pneumothoraxis, PH, pulmonary artery hypertension, because this is a secondary PH, maybe secondary to pneumothorax or pneumonia. Then they are very commonly presenting us with the shock, renal failure, seizures, thromboembolic phenomena. We have seen 3 or 4 babies. I will discuss and share these cases with you. It is something which is something very strange, but people are seeing that. So, how these things will help? Like in cases of pneumonia, pneumothorax, our lung ultrasounds will help us. For pulmonary hypertension, shock, our functional echo will help us. For seizures, overhead ultrasounds will help us. For renal failure, to see the Dopplers of the renal artery, to see the perfusion of the intestine, and to see the effect and severity of thromboembolic phenomena, which vessel is involved and till what grade it is involved. The Dopplers of those vessels will be very useful for us. First to treat these babies, and second to monitor these babies. It is very important. So let's discuss a case. These cases, what we have received in last few days or weeks with us, I will be discussing that cases. So this is a preterm baby, 36 weeks, outborn. There is history of COVID positive in the mother 45 days prior to the delivery. Baby was born by normal vaginal delivery, and mother at the time of delivery was healthy. So baby who delivered was a male with birth weight of 2.12 kgs. So pretty good baby. Cried immediately after birth, was shifted to mother side. No other issues. But on day 3, developed respiratory distress, refusal to feed, and the color was bit off. So this baby was brought to us. We started with the CPAP, FiO2 of 80%, 6 centimeters. Even then, in right hand, the saturations were not been maintained, as you can see. The baby pulses were fair, baby was pale looking, blood pressure was low with prolonged CFT. So everything was telling those. So what will be our differential diagnosis for this baby? This was the question we should ask. Normally, whenever we see these kind of babies, even though there is no prior history, but first diagnosis will be sepsis in our scenario. Then the baby may have aspirated while feeding, while mother is feeding this baby, maybe a possibility. There may be a cardiac issue on day third. The baby, presented to us was off colored with hypotension, with respiratory distress. So maybe it's a duct dependent lesion, maybe some metabolic issue, maybe this baby had some coagulation issues or something which for which this baby had IVH, and and presented to us like this. Other thing, now in this scenario, this is one thing which has come to our diagnosis, differential diagnosis, that is COVID or neonatal MIS or MISN, whichever way you want to, because there is no standard terminology for this. So when I talk about this sepsis, the things which ruled out, there was no significant history, antenatal history. And then to rule out, we send the sepsis screen in this. If this was an aspiration, you can rule it out by seeing, getting it done immediately by lung ultrasounds or getting X-ray done. Sometimes aspiration is very fresh, then you won't see the changes in X-ray. They may appear after 4 to 6 hours. If it is cardiac, functional echo is there. This is what we will be talking about. The probe in your hand at appropriate place and appropriate time will help you make the differential diagnosis. For metabolic, you need to check the sugars first, electrolytes, your calciums, and rule out the metabolic issues. If there are some inborn errors, then it has to be dealt with, like you have to investigate for that. But that are less common. For IVH, again, the probe in the hand and head ultrasounds. For this COVID and neonatal MACE, so we need to do the RT-PCR of the infant, COVID antibodies if RT-PCR is negative, and then we need to know the status of the maternal RT-PCR at the time of birth or previous to that. But in this mother, she had a history, but at the time of birth, the RT-PCR was negative. So based on this information, how we should take the action and what was the result? So for sepsis and aspiration, what happened for sepsis? We did CBC, CRP, blood culture, everything was negative. So there was no bacterial sepsis. For aspiration, we did an X-ray chest to rule out the stuff, and this was the X-ray. And as you can see, what I've just rounded off, you can see there was a pneumothorax on the right side. And the left, there was, the mediastinum and the left lung pushed on the left side. So there was a kind of tension, not very bad, but It's a kind of tension pneumothorax. As you can see, this collapse done. So this is one you can diagnose on the X-ray, yes. But another thing is we can use the ultrasounds, lung ultrasound, which gives you the idea immediately whether this baby has got aspirated the milk, so pneumonia has developed, or baby has something else. So by the time the X-ray comes, you will have something in your hand. Other simplest ways are there. Yes, auscultation you cannot bypass. See for the chest rise, chest movement you just cannot bypass that. And then the cold light. These are the three things. I will never advise to bypass these things. Your ultrasounds are always add on to your clinical uh, whatever management you do clinically. Ultrasounds are just an adjunct add-on. They are not the replacement for this. So I just want to give this disclaimer and warn the people that you should not miss your basics or overcome your basics and directly go for ultrasound. So please take this very seriously. So there was a pneumothorax in this baby. But how these ultrasounds, lung ultrasounds will be useful in this? Okay, one, if you have intubated, you can look for the ET tip. Other, where is your tip of your trocar and catheter? The trocar you have put in, the chest tube you have put in. It you can look for the place for look where the tip is and whether the lungs has opened up or not. So just to monitor, because you cannot repeatedly do an X-ray for these things. Okay, so what happened to other things like CBC? We have discussed sepsis, aspiration. Now we did an X-ray chest and lung ultrasound. Both showed the pneumothorax. So how to diagnose the pneumothorax and pneumonia in lung ultrasound? We will talk about that. Okay, for cardiac, we will discuss the cardiac echoes also, but I'm just telling in this pertaining to this particular case, when the functional echo was done, the structure, the heart structure was normal. Okay, it was not a duct dependent or cardiac congenital cardiac heart disease, but there was pulmonary hypertension, most likely secondary to pneumothorax, and there was LV dysfunction. Both of these can happen because of pneumothorax. Okay. Then for metabolic sugar, electrolyte, calcium, everything was been normal. Head ultrasound was done. There was no IVH. And for this COVID and for neonatal MIS, which is one of our differential diagnosis, RT-PCR, which was done for infant, was sorry, I have written positive here. It was negative. RT-PCR was negative. So COVID antibodies when done, they were more than 2,500. Normal values 0.8 international units per ml. Mother's RT-PCR was also negative, but because the COVID antibodies were positive for this baby, we did a maternal antibodies. They were also high, more than 2,500. And it has been, even though mother is not vaccinated, but she had COVID around 40-45 days prior to delivery. So that is explainable. Okay. So this is a kind of scenario in which RT-PCR is negative for the infant, but COVID antibodies are positive. So most likely we diagnose, like there are criteria to diagnose the babies. I won't go in detail of that, how to diagnose the neonatal MIS. Okay, but this baby was fitting into that. So in this baby, there is no antenatal history. Everything was fine, but there is spontaneous pneumothorax. Cause we don't know, but most likely we are correlating it with the neonatal MIS. So there was LV dysfunction, which may be primary because of MIS or secondary to the pneumothorax. When now in our, this is now in fashion. This is what we call in our place COVID panel. Basically, this is nothing but inflammatory markers. In this way, the D dimers were raised. The pro BNP was more than 30,000. Normal we take for preterm less than 3,500, and for the term babies in first week of life less than 3,000. LDH was normal, ferritin was raised. The baby was, put in, chest drain was been put in, was ventilated because baby was fitting into MIS. So we gave IVIG and methyl prednisolone for this baby. So this is just in nutshell what this happened to the baby. But as I told, functional echoes, head ultrasound, lung ultrasound, they all go hand in hand. You just cannot say that I've done the lung ultrasound, I will not see the heart. Invariably, you will see in the heart. And then invariably your probe will be going on the head. And it is very important. So this is nothing. When you do the point of care ultrasounds, it is basically the coordination. We'll talk about the coordination, which is properly is to be done. But first, before going to the heart, I will talk about a bit about the lung ultrasounds. Okay, and You can see here in this slide, what I have written is nothing will change pertaining because of the babies having COVID or MIS. This baby's lung ultrasound and the approach will be same if this baby is COVID negative or it is not a case of MIS, neonatal MIS. Because they present with pneumothorax, they present with pneumonia, they present with pleural effusion. So the findings will be the same. The only thing is it gives you more uh, power. Okay, I would say it's a power in your probe. It gives you more power to monitor these babies well. That is very important. And then make differentiate your diagnosis very early and take the actions earlier. This is what it will do. So uh, whenever I am going to do a lung ultrasound, these are some physical questions, clinical questions I would like to ask. Is the first thing, if the lungs are fully inflated or collapsed, okay, as we have seen in this, the right side lung is collapsed. Okay, so that can be seen on your lung ultrasound. Or if the lung is being surrounded by fluid, pleural effusion, okay, or there is intraparenchymal fluid, like because of the cardiac failure, the lungs are wet when we say the congested lungs. So it can be because of this. So how to differentiate that? And then whether now after doing the action, like we put a chest tube in this, whether the lung parenchyma lungs have opened up or not. This is another thing we need to see whether the atelectasis has opened up or not. So this is good to monitor also. So okay, I will show you the video for that. So when I talk about lung ultrasound, the technique, the first when I talk about lung ultrasound and technique, the thing is, the first thing that comes to our mind, which probe I have to choose. So in most of C, you can use phase array probe, you can choose hockey stick probe or what we say is linear array probe. But I personally prefer linear array probe because in newborn especially, because they are of high frequency. So we need something which is of higher frequency. In newborns, if you're going to do lung ultrasound, you should prefer a probe of frequency of 10 to 12 hertz. If you use a probe of 10 to 12 megahertz, the results and the visualization, I will just show you the comparison also, will be good. Okay, so first thing is high frequency probe. I personally prefer hockey stick or linear array probe, but people they have been doing it with the phased array probe and they are diagnosing maybe better than me also. But it all depends on your experience. Okay, so why we need high frequency probe? Because the depth of the chest and the structures in the newborn is very less. So what we need is high resolution and less penetration. Okay, so that's why your this pleura is very superficial. Okay, so but it is very thin and small. So to have a good image, okay, but just I will be talking about this lung sliding, what it is. just just to see these things, it is very important you should have a high frequency probe. Okay, and why we need a range? Because lower frequency means less resolution but more penetration. So this is good to see the deeper parts of the lung where you get, like, get to diagnose the pneumonias or consolidation or some pleural effusion. But pleural effusion also, if it is on the same side, it will be superficial. So this is the probe we use. So this is a high frequency probe. This is a 15 hertz. This is a linear array or hockey stick probe. In adults, what we do is we divide the chest, the areas into six quadrants. But in newborns, we divide it into four quadrants: anterior axillary line, posterior axillary line, okay, and mid clavicular line. These three lines and one cross section at the nipple line. So you will have four quadrants: one, two, three, four, as it was been shown in this video. And you can see this probe. In this, the probe marker is this tip. This is the probe marker, this one. Okay, so this is where it will coincide the probe orientation marker on your screen. So this is the probe marker in this. So this is how in newborns it has been divided into four quadrants, like we have shown in that video. Okay, so this is just an animation, a picture, like, with colors, and actually what you see in your ultrasound 2D. Okay, gray and black. Okay, so this is your skin and soft tissue, your pectoralis muscle. These are the ribs. They are seen because they are opaque. They will seen as black. So these are the intercostal muscles. This is a lung. Below the rib, you won't be able to see anything because it is opaque. And but you will see your lungs here. This is the lung tissue you will see. So this is how your lung ultrasound will look like on your machine in 2D. Okay, so this is the one which has been done with the linear array, linear probe. Okay, so hockey stick probe, and this is it is being done with the face array probe, with which we do our normal echoes for the babies. So this is face array probe, this is phased array probe, and this is your linear array probe. As you can see, because of this high frequency, okay, and this thing, structures are superficial. How clear it is being seen in this with linear array probe as compared to phase array probe. That's why I tend to use linear array probe. As you can see, these are the ribs. This is your this thing, your skin and the soft tissues, and this is your lung in between your ribs, as you can see this. So what is this? This is a rib. This is the pleural line, pleura. And we have to follow this because this is very important feature, especially if we want to say the lung is normal. So you have to have a pleural line like this. So this is pleural line, this is your rib, and this is what we call as A lines. So these are A lines. So whatever I am telling, this is for the normal lung in lung ultrasound. These are the mainly the normal features in the lung ultrasound. So we have rib, pleural line, A lines, and this is because the ribs are opaque, so this is a black shadow. So there are nothing just below the ribs because ultrasound cannot cross the ribs. Okay. So the first sign, how we say that is a standard lung ultrasound is a normal. That is one hyperechogenic line, which thickness should be less because if it is more thick, then it is going towards like it is a kind of differential point, diagnosing point for RDS. Okay, and it is mostly located around zero 0.5 centimeters below the ribs. Okay, so it has to be there in all the cases if your lungs are normal. Okay, so those are the things, and when it moves with the respiration, because there will be a movement, the pleura moves. Okay, because the baby will be either respiring by him or herself or will be on the ventilator, but still that movement will be going on. So when we get that movement what we call as lung sliding. So this is what is called as lung sliding. So that is what is lung sliding. That is a normal sign in normal sign, that is the lungs are normal in lung ultrasound. So again, this is the same thing I'm showing you. Okay, this is the pleural line, these are the ribs, these are the A lines. Okay, this is how the pleural line looks like in A lines. You have to remember ribs, pleural line, A lines. These are the three things we have talked about till now. Okay, basically A lines or B lines or whatever I'm talking, these are nothing, just artifacts, because as you know, air is a bad conductor of ultrasonography. Then why we are using ultrasonography for doing the ultrasounds of the lung? It is filled with air, but because of the interface of solid tissue and air and liquid, it causes some artifacts, and those artifacts they become sign, and hence it help us in diagnosing these various pathologies. Okay, so A lines we have already talked about. So these are the A lines in the lung ultrasound. Then the next thing comes. So what we have talked about ribs, pleural line, lung sliding, A lines. Okay, A lines are horizontal. Now we have the vertical things. Okay, they look like laser hyperechoic this thing lines. They are thicker than what the A lines are, and they are vertical to the A lines. Okay, so they are also in some of the newborns, especially the newborns in the first 3 to 4 days, they are normal. They look like this. As you saw, the A lines were like this. These are like this. They fan out. Okay, like this. But in one frame, you will see 2 or 3 V lines. If you see more than 2 to 3 V lines, it may be because of the cardiac failure, so pulmonary congestion, or it may be the TTN. That's how you diagnose TTN in the babies. Okay, Now you have, what are the normal features you see in the lungs, ultrasound lung of the newborn? Ribs, pleural line, sliding sign, A lines and B lines. These are the, you should remember these few things. There are so many things. I won't be talking about that. These are a few basic things you should be talking and remembering. Okay. So these are the B lines I have already told you. So this is what is the video of your lung ultrasound. As you can see this pleura is moving. So this is what we call as lung sliding. Lung sliding is very important to say that there is no pneumothorax and the lungs are normal. Okay. So lung sliding sign is very important. So when we put M mode, if you are, if you are attending this, I won't be going in detail about 2D mode, color mode, and M mode. M mode is a motion mode. We put the M mode in that. The video last I showed you of the pleural, this thing, pleura moving, what we call as the lung sliding. So when you put that M mode on that, you will get a picture like this. So we call it as a seashore sign. Okay. So that also shows your lungs are normal. So for the normal lungs, you should have the normal looking ribs, pleural line, lung sliding, A lines, less than 3 B lines in one frame. And then if you put M mode on pleural sliding sign, you should get something like this, what we call as seashore sign. Why it is important, I will tell you why it is important. So this is how you get the seashore sign. This is your 2D. When you put M mode on this is how in live video you will get. So it looks like water and beach. So it looks like a seashore. That's why it is known as seashore sign. But if you don't have lung sliding, okay, mark my point. If you don't have lung sliding, okay, and put a M mode on that, you will get something as something like this is barcode. So that mostly signifies that there is pneumothorax there because the pleura is not moving there. So you won't see a seashore sign. Instead, you will see a barcode sign. Okay. If you see a barcode sign, M mode like this, it points towards the pneumothorax. And if you see something, the last I showed you, the M mode, the seashore sign, it means the lung is normal. Okay. So either some people call it stratosphere sign or some people call it bar sign. As you can see, this is something like barcode. There is no differentiation of water and beach here. So that's how you differentiate the pneumothorax from the normal lung. This is something which has been talked about a lot. What we say as the this thing lung sign. Sorry. Okay. So see in this what this thing, the point where your pneumothorax and your normal lung differentiate, it does not, we don't get to see in the newborns. It is very commonly and very nicely seen in adult patient because their chest is bigger. So they have one lobe where you have got entrapped pneumothorax. But in newborns, if it is pneumothorax, it's everywhere most of the times. So we don't get to see this ultrasound, this sign of lung point. This is known as the lung point. We don't get to see in newborns lung point. Okay. So generally we depend upon our barcode sign or stratosphere sign and seashore sign. So so as you can see in this 2D, in this section, okay, in this lower section, this is on the lower lung, this is upper segment. In lower, you can see there is no A lines, okay, neither you see a B line here, and there is no lung sliding. But here there is lung sliding. So pleura is moving. So this is normal lung, this is pneumothorax. If I put M mode here and here, you get to see a seashore sign here, stratosphere or barcode sign here, and this is what is the lung point. But it is nicely seen in adults. It is, I have not seen it in newborns till now. Okay. And specificity and sensitivity is quite high. So this is good. You can do that, especially you just have to put an M mode, okay, on this. Look for stratosphere sign or seashore sign. Okay, so this is how your normal lungs will look like in M mode. This is how your pneumothorax will look like. So there's the stratosphere sign. This is seashore sign. So when we talk about ultrasonographic approach, how to diagnose a pneumothorax. So first thing you need, so there is, if, as I have shown in that video, if you have a single B line present, that rules out your pneumothorax. As you can see in that, when I show you lung point, okay, there was no B line in that part, in the lower segment. So if there is lung sliding or A sign, so it is, if they are there, then it rules out your pneumothorax. So what is, first you have to look for your pleural line, look for lung sliding. If lung sliding is there, it is no pneumothorax. If it is not there, then you look for the B lines. Okay, this lung point, I will take it out from the newborn flow chart, because it is very difficult to see lung point in newborns. So first thing you look for lung sliding. Yes, no pneumothorax. No, look for the B lines. Yes, no pneumothorax. If it is no, then directly that means it is a pneumothorax. I won't go for these things, lung pulse or lung point. These are very difficult to get in the newborns. So if you don't have lung sliding, you don't have B line in that section, put the M mode on. On M mode, if it is a barcode sign, it clearly tells it's a pneumothorax. That's how you diagnose pneumothorax on lung ultrasounds. Okay, and then other, like this baby was having pneumothorax. Okay, fine. But if this baby must have got pneumonia or something like that, then we will have pleural line. We will have lung sliding. Okay, but there are ways to differentiate and diagnose the consolidation. Okay, in that another sign has come in. So there are so many signs, as I told, because it is an artifact. So they are given the name to this sign. So what they call as shred sign. Shred sign is, if I shred the papers, if you crumble the paper, you will see something like that. Coarse appearance. See in this, so this is your pleural line. If it is pneumonia for some days or more than 2 to 3 days, your pleura also becomes thick. If it is RDS, your pleura becomes thick. Okay. And then you see these shreds, as if something moth eaten, something is there in between, puffy appearance. So that goes in favor of pneumonia. Okay, so this is what we call as shred sign. In normal lung, you won't have this, something like this is what you see. So let's talk about one baby, 40 weeks term baby with several severe perinatal repression. Okay, this baby was ventilated. There was a birth asphyxia, was given bolus. Okay, did not see any improvement, so another bolus was given. But after giving the second bolus, there was a deterioration form of increased oxygen. In ventilator requirement goes up. Cardiac ultrasound was done, debutamine was started. But what was the issue? As we talked, so what happened? Because the heart was pumping on the lower side of the normal because of hypoxia. So there was no hypovolemia in this baby, but your pump failure was there. So what you have done, you have given two boluses of 20 ml per kg, you have caused congestion. That's how your congested ultrasounds will look like. These are basically nothing but the B lines which are congested, okay, and thick. So per frame, there are so many B lines and they are very close to each other. This is how the normal lung will look like. One or two B lines, multiple A lines. Here it is very difficult to see A lines and there are so many B lines. So this is what is your wet lungs look like. And this is how your normal lung will look like. That's how you can diagnose in some of this TTN, severe TTN babies in first 2 or 3 days. Okay, or cardiac failure. If it is a cardiac failure and there is pulmonary congestion, this is how you diagnose. Even the lung ultrasounds are very useful for RDS. One, okay, you have diagnosed on X-ray, you have diagnosed it on the ultrasound, but then it becomes useful. One, this like for us, we've used it very much. It becomes useful, especially to decide for the second dose of surfactant in ELBWs. And the sensitivity and specificity is almost 100%. I won't go in detail, but see, this is the baby when get admitted. As you can see, there is a lot of B lines. So that shows your lung compliance is very poor. Okay. So in this, give first dose of surfactant and ventilated. This is how after just 1 or 2 hours, how it looks. See, the congestion decreased. And after some time, when the baby is off ventilator, you see a lot of A lines, B lines are almost negligible. So this is how it improved. So if you have this kind of picture initially, okay, you're given surfactant. So the picture became like this. But instead, after few hours becoming like this, it again starts becoming like this. So that shows yet you may need second dose of surfactant. This is how we decide most of the time that regarding the second dose, when to give second dose. So my friends, as I talked about the coordination, it is very important. Like this is what is head ultrasound. When you're doing the head ultrasound, you're doing the lung ultrasound. And in between, you need to see what is happening to the heart. Okay, there are a lot of B lines. So you need to coordinate between in between. See, your heart is coordinating with your lungs. Okay, but now got stuck. So this heart needs to get again coordinated with your brain. So now the brain, heart, and lung all are coordinating with each other. And that's how your focus is. Whatever you do, whichever organ you do, you have to coordinate. So let's come to our scenario again. We thought about aspiration, but instead of aspiration, it came out to be a pneumothorax, but it was no pneumonia. We did X-ray lung, X-ray chest, but lung ultrasound, we discussed in detail how to diagnose pneumothorax. It wasn't diagnosed. There was no pneumonia. But how we can monitor? See, we can monitor the expansion of the lung without getting an X-ray. We can on simply on lung ultrasound check whether the pleural effusion is there or is being developing. If the baby is intubated, we can check for the ET position. If the baby is intubated, we can check for the ET position. Like whether it has opened up or where is your chest, whatever chest catheter we have put, the drain. So where is the tip? So we can look for that also. When we did a cardiac ultrasound for that baby, functional echo, what we found was ejection fraction was 25%. For it was on the lower side. Normal value of ejection fraction is 40 to 75%. Fraction shortening, that is contractility of the heart is 12%. Normal is 25 to 55%. Structure was normal in this baby. Okay. Then why I have added is coronaries, because now this is one of the diagnostic criteria and prognostic criteria for babies presenting to us with neonatal MIS. So that's why. Okay. So that is very important. So, so what happens was the coronary size is being normal. I will be talking. See, the normal values is basically it depends upon the Z score for coronaries, but normally it is around 3 to 4 millimeters, less than 4 millimeters in term babies. The VTI, the flow of the coronaries, we need to see. Normally it is 2.5 to 4, the VTI. TRZ, which was calculated for 50 millimeter of mercury, what we do it on the apical 4-chamber view. So there was a pulmonary hypertension, but as we know, there was a pneumothorax, so that explains that. But there was no pericardial effusion. The structure was normal. There was LV dysfunction, LVO, the left ventricle output. We also need to calculate. For normal value is 125 to 310. It was bit on the lower side in this baby. Then look for the PH, RARV functions, TRZ, coronary size, and the VTI in the coronary, and we look for pericardial effusion. This is what you need to see with functional echoes in babies presenting to you with COVID positive, RT-PCR positive history, or with neonatal MIS. So now from lung ultrasounds, we'll come down and talk about some basic views of the cardiac ultrasound, heart ultrasound. As you all know, first, we always tend to start with apical 4-chamber and 5-chamber views. Then parasternal views. The parasternal views are further divided in low parasternal and high parasternal. The low parasternal, we divide it like there are two: parasternal long axis view and parasternal low parasternal means parasternal long axis and parasternal short axis view. So these are the two low parasternal views. Then we have high parasternal views. Okay, in high parasternal views, we have our suprasternal arch view or arch view, what we call. Okay, then we have ductal view, which is very common and favorite for the neonatologist. Then we have pulmonary artery view, pulmonary vein view, and then we have subcostal views, in which we see the atrias, and these are the cross-sectional subcostal views. Then we have longitudinal subcostal views. So these are the views we commonly see in the newborn. So in order to see the view, you need to see that where to we should keep the probe and that place where you see keep the probe to look for that particular view, what we call as window, echocardiography window. So there, as we told, as I talked about, there is apical views, apical four chamber, five chamber view. So we have this apical window, which is just below the nipple, fourth or fifth intercostal space, in the mid clavicular line. Then we have parasternal, low parasternal. So low parasternal is the area at or below the nipple line, and above the nipple line it is high parasternal. So for this parasternal window, we use this window to look for parasternal long axis, parasternal short axis view. And then we have high parasternal views. We have the ductal view, which is left subclavicular view. Okay. And then we have suprasternal view in the suprasternal arch. And then we have the subcostal view. Subcostal view is in the subcostal window, and that is just below the xiphisternum. Okay, a point, but where this line joining your umbilicus and xiphisternum in the upper one third of that. So it again of two type, cross sectional, longitudinal. Uh, it is always a good practice to imagine a clock in front of your baby. Okay, 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock. So instead of learning right, left, up, low, always I will be talking instead of where your point orientation marker should be in terms of clock, where it is. So just imagine a clock in front of your baby like this. So this is apical four chamber view. Just concentrate on this part. So as you can see, this is the probe which is being kept. Pointer is being pointing at 2 to 3 o'clock position at the apical window. Okay, and this is what you will see the four chambers: LA, LV, RA, RV, interventricular septum, interatrial septum, mitral valve, tricuspid valve, descending aorta, and these are the pulmonary veins, 1, 2, and 3. So this is how these they look like. Okay, so this is apical four chamber view. This is just an animation to show you that how the heart is being cut and it is being brought in front of you. Apical four chamber. So when why I'm showing this, because I have been talking about now, in the apical four chamber view, we do a lot of parameters which are been pertaining related to our today's topic, that is corona or neonatal MIS. So for that, we need to know the left ventricle output, LVO. This is the formula. For that, we need to calculate the VTI, velocity time integral of aorta. This is aorta or left ventricle outflow tract. So here we keep the pulse wave Dopplers and calculate our VTI, and hence we can calculate our LVO. So this is apical five chamber. That was four chamber, and this is five chamber. So what we generally do the apical four and five chamber, we see the flow across the valves and we calculate our TR jet to estimate our pulmonary artery hypertension. Then we do the Dopplers of flow through the aorta to calculate the VTI in order to calculate our LVO. Okay, that cardiac output. Assess the function in this. So there's in this apical four chamber view, we can assess EF, ejection fraction, by Simpson's law. Okay. To talk about that is done in the apical four chamber. Okay, to talk about that, it takes it will be a kind of advanced workshop to calculate that. Then we look for RA-RV chambers, because if your pulmonary pressures are high, okay, your afterload of right side is high, you tend to get dilated RA-RV, and then you have to rule out pericardial effusion. This is what you should do in apical four chamber and five chamber views. So this is parasternal long axis view. That is a kind of low parasternal view. So that the nipple line pointer is pointing at 11 o'clock position, that is towards the right shoulder. This is how you will see. So this is your RV, interventricular septum, LV, mitral valve. So this is your parasternal long axis view. And then just rotate your probe at 90 degree from 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock. You will start seeing this parasternal short axis view. So this is your aorta in cross section. So it also known as Mercedes-Benz sign. This is very important pertaining to MAS, MIS, and corona babies, because this is a view where we will look for our coronary arteries. I will show you one video also how to okay, this is how it happens. When you probe, it cuts the heart in cross section, and this is how you will see your Mercedes-Benz sign. See, this is how you do the coronary artery view. Basically, it is nothing but this pointer is now pointing at 1 o'clock position at the nipple line, parasternal short axis view. So it is your nothing but this Mercedes-Benz sign view. And this is where you are going to see the coronaries. These are your in high parasternal view, we won't go in detail because this is in the upper 1/3 of the sternum. The ductal view, see the duct is open or closed. It has nothing to do with your COVID or neonatal MIS. Pulmonary artery view, again the pulmonary vein view just to rule out the structural issues. And then SVC is again just one of the parameter to calculate your SV flow, SVC flow. Okay, how much volume the SVC is. It's another measure to calculate your cardiac outputs. Okay, so that's why I won't go in because it particularly it has nothing to do, especially for corona and neonatal MIS. So these are just you can see in this the probe pointer is pointing at 3 o'clock position, and this is what you see is LA RA, and this is your PFO. You can see this flap, and this is your interatrial septum. Okay, so this video, it's nothing but a your same parasternal short axis view. Okay, so the pointer is pointing at 1 o'clock position in the this nipple line. So you will again see this parasternal short axis view, what we call as the first section, what we call as the Mercedes-Benz sign view. So just in this is aorta at the base. So you will see this number 1 coronary, number 2 coronary of the left and right here. So you will calculate the coronary size here, here and here, and you will calculate the flow by putting in your what you have to do, you have to come down on your scale, velocity scale, and put your pulse wave Doppler here to calculate your Dopplers of the coronary artery. As we have talked about, this high parasternal views are not of very much importance related to the COVID or neonatal MIS. These are just subcostal views. Okay, this is a cross-sectional subcostal view where the pointer is at 3 o'clock position. This is your LA, this is your RA, and this is your interatrial septum. And this flap which is moving shows this is PFO. And then this is your longitudinal subcostal, same point, but the pointer which was pointing at 3 o'clock is now pointing at 12 o'clock position here. So this is what you will see. This is the liver, this is your IVC, and this is your hepatic vein. Why it is important? This is what we have seen. I will show you the table. The significance that has shown if your SVC is flaccid, okay, there is hypovolemia, and there is a hypercollapsibility. That is one of the bad prognostic indicators, especially in baby with neonatal MIS. So those babies, they have presented with shock and with renal failure, and their outcomes were bad. So this is one of, and again, a kind of indicator that this baby is sick. So this is how we have just tabulated. Like if you do it in a Pickel 4-chamber, 5-chamber view, okay, you look for EF, ejection fraction. The normal value is 30 to 75%. Look for pericardial effusion. See whether the RA-RV is dilated, that, or you calculate TAPSE. Okay, so this is one thing to give you the functions of right ventricle. Normal value is 6 to 8. If it's less than 6, RV is dilated. That means your pulmonary hypertension is there and your RV is dysfunction. You can calculate your right ventricle output and left ventricle output. In parasternal long axis view, you look for pericardial effusion, calculate FS, fraction shortening, contractility of the heart. Normal value is 25 to 55%. And then you look for interventricular septal motion. This again will give you the severity of pulmonary hypertension. And then in parasternal short axis view, again you have to look for one pericardial effusion. You can calculate FS in this, and this in this view, in the base of the aorta, where what we call as the Mercedes-Benz view, which I have just shown, you can look for the coronary arteries. Size is as per the Z score, but normally from preterm to term is 2 to 4 millimeters, and VTI flow in coronaries, the VTI is 3 to 4 is normal. In subcostal cross-sectional view, you look for the flow through PF4 ASD. This just will give you the idea that how much is the pulmonary pressures are there. And then for longitudinal, you look for IVC, look for the size and collapsibility. The significance of that I have already discussed. Another thing we have seen, in especially in babies with neonatal MIS, that any baby having pro BNPs more than 3,500. Normally, we for preterm we take less than 3,500 and term less than 3,000. It's again a bad prognostic marker for neonatal MIS babies. So this is our experience. Like, this is basically to tell, like we just wanted to know how these various things, signs will give the prognostication of these babies. So echo findings, how they give the prognosis, what are the prognosis as when we see these echo findings, or one is structure should be normal. Okay, if we have seen few babies, they've been treated for 2 or 3 days as COVID, but then we did an echo, they came out to be a TAPVC. Okay, so your structure should be normal. So it is not relevant to prognosis because of your COVID or your neonatal MIS. But if you have TAPSI, which is low, in between 3 to 5, FS between 5 to 10%, and RV and LV, they are dysfunction. It is one of the bad prognostic indicator for these babies. We have seen a mild pericardial effusion, but they had no relation with the prognosis. Decreased RVO, right ventricle output, the VTI in pulmonary artery less than 4 is also again a poor indicator for the prognosis. LVO very low is a bad, but what we saw was low normal again does not have any uh, relevant correlation with the prognosis. Collapsed IVC, we found it again a bad prognostic indicator. When we did the coronary arteries, we only found in one baby the coronaries were dilated, but in all other cases, like more than 20 cases, they were normal. So we didn't find any relevant. The only one person baby we found it dilated and low VTI. Otherwise, we did not find any correlation. So let's talk about this other scenario. This baby also had seizures. So we had to rule out IVH, but a head ultrasound was done. There was no seizures, and when we did Dopplers for the anterior cerebral or middle cerebral artery, they were normal. So there was no raised intracranial pressure also. Okay, meningitis can be the cause of those seizures. So, but there was sepsis screen was negative. Pertaining to COVID and MIS, we have seen babies with because of encephalopathy, these babies they present with the seizures in many of the hospitals, and this is what we found. Sorry again, this is RT-PCR was negative, but COVID antibodies were positive. Mother RT-PCR negative, mother antibodies were again positive in this baby. So that's why we need to do a head ultrasound also. I won't go in detail in head ultrasound, and this is just a slide to show you that this is on one side there is grade 4 IVH. This is how it looks like in your head ultrasounds. Okay, so this is just to show you. And now we discuss another case. This is a term male baby born with the birth weight of 3.28 kgs by normal vaginal delivery. There was no antenatal issues, and mother did not have any history of COVID positive. The baby was born with normal delivery and was with mother. By day two of life, they started noticing the bluish discoloration of left leg. This baby was referred to us on third day. CT angio, when this was done, there was not a single drop of blood flow in the left leg in the femoral artery. Baby was very stable, was in room air. Okay, all vitals they were fine. Only when we did an SpO2 in the left foot, it was not recordable. When we did COVID antibodies in babies, the value was 1250, and else everything was normal, but there was a deranged D dimer. So we checked the antibodies of the mother. They were also high, even though there is no history of COVID positivity in the mother. So though maybe the mother was asymptomatic carrier, she had an infection, asymptomatic, so RT-PCR was not done, but the antibodies were highly positive. So it maybe the baby had MIS, fetal MIS, and presented to us as a neonatal MIS. So we was given antithrombolytic agents, low molecular weight, heparin, and everything. Okay, so how these ultrasounds were important to us, because initially there was no flow, and we had to do, because Dopplers, we didn't get any flow in the Dopplers. We had to go for CT angio. When CT angio was been done, There was no blood flow in the left leg. But then it became important because when we started treating this patient, so we had to monitor whether it was improving or not. If not, then this baby may need surgical intervention. So what are the different ways how we could monitor whether the clot is going decreasing or not? So what one is by putting on the SpO2. Initially it was not recordable, but now at the time of discharge it was 94% on the same limb. Other is by Dopplers. As you were not able to see any flow, we started seeing flow in that. And one more thing you can use for that is NIRS, NIRS. Okay. But what we do, we did two things. We started monitoring it with the Dopplers and put by seeing the SpO2 and documenting that. So this is not the baby. I will show you the picture, but this is how, again, you use the hockey stick or linear array probe for this. So in the longitudinal way, you will see this is for the femoral artery. And then again, we checked in that baby the femoral and the popliteal. So for that, it's always easier to put the babies prone. Okay. And the pointer, again, this is the pointer of your probe. It faces up. The pointer faces up. So it matches with your here, the probe orientation marker. So this is your probe orientation marker here. So this is for the femoral, and then in prone it was the tibial, and this is how you will see the flow. This is a normal flow. The color in this flow will depend upon how your probe is, moving and facing, because blue is away from the probe and red is towards the probe flow. So it does not. It will only the Dopplers of these vessels will give you idea whether it is, and the anatomical position, that whether it is a femoral artery or femoral vein. Okay. So that's how, as you can see, it is very nicely seen in this baby. In that baby, we were not able to see any flow in the femoral. Okay. And then with improvement, it started showing flow in the vessels. So this is what now we call MIS, neonatal MIS foot and hand. This is the foot of that baby. This picture is after few days when the things started getting improved. And this is another baby. I have not discussed this case. Very bad. We lost the hand of this baby. And this is almost in the stage of auto amputation. So again, it was good that, and the another use of ultrasounds we did was this thing started from the elbow of this baby, but we were able to salvage the elbow till wrist here. We gave all anti-thrombotic and low molecular weight heparin. But another thing we did was we gave a local block for vasodilator, sympathetic nervous system blocker. So again, that was ultrasound guided. That was the first thing, first time I did in like this baby was around 600, 700 grams, 700-gram baby with a history of mother COVID positive. Antibodies were high in this baby. So this was we gave a local block, for sympathetic nerve block by ultrasound guided. So that was another thing where we used ultrasound in this baby. So my friends, if I still think that if we have to overcome these very bad babies, we are trying our best with all kind of probes and knowledge. But still, for Corona, what works is this: what this female is doing. So let's hope that things will become better. Thank you very much. So this is your contact. These are the few materials which you can acquire to read. Okay, and this is a person you can contact on WhatsApp. So these books he can provide you, and there are other books also. But the only crux was that your probe is something which just enhance your clinical knowledge, your power to diagnose, to differentiate various other differential diagnoses, to monitor these babies, and you tend to achieve your decision early if you have a point of care ultrasound in your hand. Thank you very much.